PK Sam on the show. I can't believe I got you, man. Nice to meet you.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to be here. Glad you reached out. Just like we kind of said off air, take that shot, and you never know what's gonna happen. So glad I'm here to help out, and I'm sure we're gonna have a great conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. I saw your post. You made a post about some of the successful stories that you've heard with athletes that you had personally had contact with, teammates, former teammates, and stuff, and what they're
Right.
doing now. I think you mentioned like someone was an actor, someone was doing this, someone was doing that. So as soon as I saw that, I knew that like minds, I was like, man, I gotta reach out. Cause I like before, like we got on air and everything like that, I was telling you, man, um, I got to be perfectly honest here. I started my life as a Gator fan. I'm from Ocala. So,
Okay.
Fred Taylor with the mirrored visor and all that. I was big with that. And then as soon as Steve Spurrier dipped, I was like, coaches can leave? Like my little kid head, I was like, oh man, he could bounce. So I was like, I was like, I'm a Seminole fan now, and I just started Dunn and all those guys. So it's an honor to have you on the show, man. Honor.
I appreciate it. Yeah, Fred Taylor, he was a beast. I follow him on Instagram. They do a lot of good stuff too with their podcast. Him and
I didn't
Chad.
know they had one.
Yeah, him, Chad, Brandon Marshall, and oh my goodness, you're gonna kill me. He's a Florida Channing Crowder. They have it's four of them. It's really good. We'll talk after this. I'll send you the link so you can kind of follow theirs too.
Yeah, I'd love to check that out. So first things first, man. I've been dying to ask you this question because I feel like, obviously the first time we met, and I usually interview a lot of former teammates and guys that I kind of personally know. So when did you fall in love with the game of football? Like what was that like for you?
It's actually that's a great, I don't think anybody's ever asked me that. I wouldn't necessarily say like I fell in love with football. I was actually growing up, I was in love with baseball. Baseball was my best sport growing up. Football, I think my dad loved it so much. And, I was his oldest boy. I think that was my way somehow. At a young age, I figured out that's how I could bond with him and make him proud. So, and then you just, you end up good at it and you start watching. And I started embracing and enjoying the physicality of it. Baseball was kind of boring, but I loved it. But then when I really started embracing, just getting hit or hitting people, dominating another man, just with your body and just being physical, I fell in love with it. But I wouldn't say I really fell in love with it until I got older, probably like high school is when I was really like, damn, this is it. Like I'm really enjoying where this is taking me.
So you were saying your favorite aspect of the sport was being able to dominate another person. Where do you feel like you got that from? Were you a physical kid growing up?
No, I wasn't. I was a really small, puny guy, like just a really quick, fast. I played shortstop in baseball just because that's usually where a little short, quick guy is. And I think eighth grade, I went from 5'6" to 6'1", and I started filling out. And then all of a sudden, like the next summer, I'm 6'3", like 175, and you start when you're doing those tackle drills, and you're like, damn, it's way different when all of a sudden you're 8 inches bigger and 50 pounds heavier, and and then by like my senior year, like 190, almost 6'4", benching 300, and you're just like, it's a whole different world. I was like, yeah, I like this, but so I loved it, and then obviously you start back at the bottom in college and you have your beast, that out there, and you're like, man, I got a long way to go. You walk in, you see your Anquan Boldens and stuff like that, and you're like, all right, it's time to hit the weight room, extra notch. But it's just a really fun way. The sport challenges you in every way, mentally, physically. When you're hurt, you didn't realize how much more you could go. And you just start tapping into a whole different kind of dark place that I call it. But it's calm. It's not like a dark evil, it's just like a dark,
Mm-hmm.
calm place where you can keep going. Like Sean Taylor, he hits you, and all of a sudden you gotta get up. Like damn, figure this one out. Get up and keep going, and get better and learn how to catch the ball the first time instead of bobbling it and then duck before he knocks you out. So, it was just a fun overall sport of dominating, and then sometimes when you're getting dominated, you have to figure out how to get better. So yeah, but yeah, I think it was just because I was so small when I was growing up. When I finally ended up a bigger guy, I just enjoyed being like the bully, so to speak. Sometimes, yeah.
So you ended up playing for Florida State, ended up having a pro career that spanned from the NFL, CFL, played several years. Are you originally from Florida, or are you, because I know you're in Ohio now, right?
Yeah, I'm in Ohio. No, I'm from a smaller high school. I grew up in Gwinnett County, so a place called Norcross, Georgia. Then I transferred to what is now a powerhouse, Buford High School, but it was a little farm town when I first went. So I'm a Georgia guy. And then Florida State, back when I was growing up, you're talking about the peak of, just Florida State. There'll never be another run in college football like that just because of how everything's set up anyway, So my whole youth, you just saw Florida State top five all the time. There wasn't a million cable channels, So when there was a big game in the South, other than Georgia playing, because you're in Georgia, you usually saw Florida State and all the chopping in the crowd and, deal that got you excited. And so that's how I ended up a Florida State fan and all that. But yeah, I've gone all over, and I'm in good old Ohio where it's probably, I think it was like 25 degrees a day and just like
Mm.
brutal, but you kind of adapt and keep going. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm familiar with Buford High School, man. I played one of the running backs I played with at
okay.
USF, Demetrius Murray. I think he ended up winning like the Georgia
Yeah,
High
yeah,
School
yeah, yeah.
Player of the Year or something like that. Yeah, he scored a ton of touchdowns. And I remember
He was
him
pretty
him
good. Yeah,
yeah, I remember him telling us about Buford, and then he showed us like their highlight tape and how many they were just like winning like state year in and year out. And I think they won
yeah,
again this year, right?
they did. Yeah, they're gonna be the first school. They're on track to win a championship in every classification. So when I was there, it was 1A. We were super small. We lost, but then my brother won the next year in 1A, and then eventually they went 2, 3, 4, 5. I think this year was 6A, and they won. So the last one left is a 7A, and they would have ran the table in every classification. So
That's
it's a
insane.
crazy story, man. It's actually like it's really weird how just one country school just kind of blew up into this powerhouse of Georgia football.
Yeah, absolutely. And now they're putting out like 10, 12, 15 D1 kids a year. It's like a machine in there now. Whoever ended up
Oh yeah,
who
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
is it the same head coach that you had? Is he still coaching now?
No, we had a guy named Dexter Wood. He was a little older. He went to be an AD. Jess Simpson was the head coach, and then Jess ended up leaving, bouncing around from the Falcons, and then I think he even went down to the Hurricanes. And now they've had some coaching changes. But no matter who they pick, they usually pick a really good guy. And right now they have a great coach, and they're doing well.
Beautiful, beautiful work. You ever get a chance to go back and see any games or anything like that?
No, I wish. My kids are just so involved in sports, and then I always find really weird, odd jobs just to make sure I don't miss any of their sports. So they usually, like right now I work third shift just to make sure I'm home during the day so we can do training and all type of stuff. And so it just makes it tough to get back home. I try to get home like once a year during the summertime, but usually because my kids are playing, you just don't have time to shoot down there on a Friday and catch something. But This year I got down for a playoff game, but I chose to go to a different one just to check out some other talent because I knew Buford would win. So I just wanted to see Norcross play. And
Okay.
so that was it. That was the first time I seen a Georgia high school game in 10 years. Yeah.
So what are you doing third shift? That's a midnight run, isn't it?
It's brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I work from I work 4 days a week from 6 o'clock to 4:30 in the morning. And then I get home, I crash until about 11. And then my kids, because of the pandemic, they're basically homeschooled. So my wife has a really big kid job. So I'm the one who has to, for the most part, make sure all the work's done.
Mm.
We go in the basement and train. We'll go outside and train. I take care of all that. But I drive, it's kind of like a forklift. It's a reach truck. So I just drive around picking up pallets. I would tell you the company. I just don't know how that works with like social media and all that stuff. And I don't want somebody to be like, you're not allowed, you know what I'm saying?
Right. No doubt. Yeah. I never
But yeah,
mention,
so
I don't mention my stuff either like that. I like to
yeah,
keep it.
but yeah, so I drive, I just ride around on forklifts. And before that, I was just into driving trucks. So I would drive non-CDL type trucks. And then those were usually like from 4 in the morning to like noon. And then I'm done. I'm at home to train the kids. So I'm just always finding something crazy that nobody wants just to keep some money in my pocket and my time to be able to, help the kids and do all that.
That's beautiful that you've committed
Yeah.
so heavily to being involved with your kids. Were your parents like that with you as well? Was that where you got that
Yeah,
from?
yeah. They left corporate life and started their own cleaning company. So they were basically janitors. They would go out at night. Once we went to bed, they were out all night cleaning buildings to make sure. So they would sleep while we were in school. And then by the time we got out of school, they were there for homework, take us to practice. And same thing. It's just, as they say, a chip off the old block. I'm doing the same stuff my dad did that helped us become successful. And it's proven. So why, break it? It sucks sometimes because you can make so much more money, but at the end of the day, sometimes money is not everything. When I see the growth of my kids and just the joy we have together, and financially we're fine. So at a certain point when you're comfortable, it just kind of becomes greed and you're just losing time. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm.
it's tough sometimes, right? Because you see somebody with some really nice stuff and you're like, oh, I could have that if I wanted. But then when I see my kids busting somebody's butt on the court or, on the field, then I know it paid off, and I'm fine with my NFL pension and all that. So it's just a blessing all the way around.
So how many years did you end up playing for the NFL? I know
Yeah.
you got drafted by the Dolphins,
Patriots, and then went to the
the
Dolphins.
Patriots.
Yep.
That's right.
So I did 2 years with the Patriots. Those were two credited, and then the Dolphins, I got one more credited, and then I hung on for like a couple of practice squad more years. They don't really count. It's just you're competitive and you hate it how it ended. So I'm still scrapping, trying to prove myself. And I was just more, now that I'm older, I was just more of a camp body. Like you're still good enough to give the defense a good look and make the other guys compete for a job, but I was never gonna make. You know what I'm saying? Like once you get older
Yeah.
and you start realizing, like, damn, I was just being kind of used. Just for that, for the guys who were going to start to get breaks in camp. And I was just, I was still fighting, but it was just financially, when you start understanding contracts, there was no way there was enough room to add another, receiver. So, but yeah, so it was 5 years NFL, and then 3 in Canada, and then 1 NFL Europe before that shut down. So I traveled the world and caught a ball for a living, and we didn't end up with the millions we wanted, but like I said, there were so many memories and just things I got to enjoy that some people who played in NFL never got to see because they were landlocked, and then unfortunately they went broke, and then they can't travel. So like
Right.
I was traveling for free, playing football and just being a big kid until I had kids, and then decided the money, 100,000 to live 6 months away up in Canada just wasn't worth missing out on life. So I hung it up and became a dad and family man, and that's it.
Who was the first person that you told that you were going to retire? Do you remember?
Yeah, so this is actually a really crazy story. I've never shared it publicly. My dad died in '06, and
Sorry to hear
then
that.
oh yeah, no, I appreciate it. So 2011, I just got traded back to Toronto, and I had a dream. He just came in my dream, and he was like, "It's over," you know. He was like, "I'm proud of you." He gave me a big hug, and like I'm crying in my dream, right? And I wake up and I'm not. So I call my wife and my mom. Like, I just saw my dad. He told me it's over. And then the next day after a preseason game, out of nowhere I got cut. Like I was a starter, and they were just like, "We're gonna go ahead and release you." And then nobody called. It was like you go from the phone ringing to just like it was just really weird. So that my family was the first one. I was like, you know what? I hung on 8 years. I believe that you know there's a heaven and stuff. So I just think that he was allowed to come back in kind of the subconscious level to tell me good job, and it was over. Go handle life in another way, and that's what I did. So I kind of wish I had about 3 more years, you know, 4 more years, but
Don't we all, man?
I don't regret it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't regret it. Yeah. So yeah, just my wife and mom. I called them and say it's over, it's a wrap. And my wife was at the game, and I literally packed up my bag after they cut me and packed the car up and drove home and never touched the football again, other than just to train kids.
Have you ever shared that story with your kids? Are they at that age yet where you've kind of cued them in on how
Right.
this professional athlete life really is?
Yeah. So they're starting to get there. They're 12 and 10.
Mm.
But I'm more breaking down of just so it started like I want you to play basketball because imagine if daddy gave you $20 and you're walking down the steps and get hurt, and then I only money. I was like, that's the difference between football and basketball with guaranteed contracts. And they were like, oh, so I would start teaching like that, and then I would just start showing them. I try my best to show them the difference of like the numbers, how many people can make it and all that stuff. But no, I haven't ever gotten into like the details. What I do tell them is you might as well try for it, right? Because you're probably gonna end up working a job anyway, but at least try for a dream that not everybody can reach. And then if you quote unquote fail, it's not really failure, you just didn't make it, but you met so many good people. Now you can have a really good career that a lot of people couldn't have because they don't have the network that athletes have. So we're just getting into kind of like the infant stage of communication on that part.
So your kids, you have two kids. Do you have two boys, a boy and a girl? At,
I have two boys. I have a stepdaughter who's already in college, but my two with my wife are two boys. So they're really good athletes. And so we work hard. They're gonna be way taller than me. One's supposed to be like 6'6", another one's 6'9". So they both play. My wife played college basketball, so she's 6 feet. And so 6 feet, 6'4". We had these big kids.
right.
So yeah, so right now they hoop. I think the oldest one, who's going to be, the 6'5", 6'6". I think he's going to be a first round tight end type guy.
That's what I was going to
He just
ask you.
doesn't.
Do you got them playing football?
They're only allowed to play every other year, just because
Oh, wow.
I know a lot of people are going to be mad. I think youth football is like the dumbest thing ever. Some people enjoy it, so it is what it is. I just don't get the point of it. It leads to a lot of bad habits. Usually the fast kid is just running circles around everybody, and nothing's really getting accomplished. So they play every other year, and so this fall will be their year they can play, and then they usually just play basketball all the time. So, but yeah, Big Brother has these huge hands. He rebounds like a monster. He's shorter like I was growing up, so he's always fighting, but he's built like me, kind of more like stiff, I guess, where basketball players are real long and they just flow, and the baby is just super long. He's tall. He's taller than Big Brother already, and he's just like
What?
skinny. And yeah, he's 10. He's already 5'5", and he's just like just long. So he has the basketball body, and Trey, the older one, has football. So we'll see how it plays out. But I think one will go football, one will go basketball, which is good. So there's no sibling, rivalry, and they can cheer for each other and not have to compete and hear all the media and all that stuff like my brother and I had to do. So yeah, but we'll see. Only God knows, right? We just keep trying and see what happens.
Yeah, the reason I asked about your sons and if they were playing football or not is I've had guys that played in the league. One, without name dropping or anything, played 11 years in the NFL, and I asked him if he would ever let his son play like youth football. Like what that exact question was, how old? Because I thought it was a foregone conclusion. You played in the NFL, like obviously you're going to put your kid in football, and he flat out stopped me and was like, my kid's not playing until high school at the very least.
Yeah.
He's like, you only got so many hits in the tank. You only got so many
Right.
repetitions of getting hit.
Yeah.
He's like, and then, all of a sudden it adds up. And, to hear you say that too, is a former professional football player yourself. It makes me feel like, if I ever have a son one day, I was already kind of set. Me and my wife have talked about it before. We got a daughter now, but, ever having a son, keeping them out of football as long as we can. I mean, that's what my parents try to do with me too. But, I was hard headed as all hell. I tried to sign myself up behind their back. So
Yeah. Well, some kids are just built for it, and that's fine. But if you have another avenue, I feel like, especially how the money is with football, it would just be smarter to try that other avenue, Now, kind of like talking on the other side of my mouth, I do think football is the best sport for young men, in terms of just structure. It's a true team sport. There's not one guy who could just get off like basketball. Like my kids could go score 20 points in a game and carry the whole team. Like that's not, or vice versa. They can have a bad game and somebody else, you know what I'm saying? But football is usually everybody has to be working together. And so that is the positive. But yeah, whoever told you that, I 100% agree. And the only reason we let them play every other year is just in case they do play. You do learn how to kind of fall properly. You learn how to take the hits. You slowly increase kind of pain tolerance. It's not just all of a sudden, your first time getting hit is by some 15-year-old kid who's, knocking snot out, you know what I'm saying? And then you're like, oh, I don't want to do it. So at least every other year, kind of builds it up. But I wish the government would just ban youth football for good across all states and make it flag until like 7th, 8th grade. And then everybody would be on a fair playing level. But until they do that, then I do think you kind of have to sprinkle your kid in here and there, unless you just have a beast that shows up at 15 and takes over. So, but
yeah,
to each his own. But yeah, I agree with whoever you interviewed that said that.
I think it was a Sports Illustrated article that I read. It was a couple of years ago. It said, with all the studies done on head injuries and CTE and stuff like that, the rate of youth football, like people signing their kids up, has dropped tremendously, like in the 70-80% range of people just not, I don't want to put my kids in it. Like, I don't want to see my kid get hit. I don't know if you ever seen or you have Netflix. You ever seen that Friday Night Tykes show? You ever heard of that?
I have seen it. I think it's absolutely crazy. But you know what? Like, that's just my opinion. So if anybody is involved in it, like, I'm not trying to, talk
Absolutely.
down on them. I just think that sometimes adults ask too much of kids when they couldn't even do it themselves as an adult. And I think that show is just like, some of it is just over the top. But you know what? We experience it right here in basketball, and we see some crazy coaching where coaches are grabbing kids and cuss them out. And, they're still babies for the most, like a 10, 12-year-old kid. Hell, both of my kids just lost teeth this week, like they're still losing teeth. And then you're over there like, cuss them out. Like they don't even have all their adult parts of life. You know what I'm saying? So we ask a lot from these kids. And that show, I watched that, I think, 2 times and was like, man, this is absolutely crazy. But to each his own, and they're producing a lot of good players, and it's good for TV for some people. But yeah, I never. After a couple, I was just like, no, I'm good on this.
Yeah, I remember watching it, and not to get too far off of your story and hearing about your journey, but I remember seeing one where a kid got a concussion and he was like 8, 9 years old. And
Oh
I was just
yeah,
like, my stomach turned because I felt that like I don't know if you ever had a concussion before, but I've had
oh
one and it was
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
7, 8, 9 developing brain and stuff. But anyway,
Yep.
moving on from that, uh, what what was the retirement process for you like what were the emotions like was it did you go through that period and it's been said before on this show, how everyone, especially football players, kind of go through this, like, for lack of a better term, like a postpartum, like a
Yeah,
year or two.
yeah,
Did you feel
yeah.
yourself going through that as well?
Oh yeah, I think it was longer than a year or two. Mine, I went and got counseling just to be very upfront. Like I went,
Yeah.
I checked into not like they kept me there, but I went to a mental health clinic and was just like, hey, I need to talk to someone. Like I can't figure out life right now. And I talked to like my pastor at the time, and the hardest part for me was there was no outlet anymore to physically do things, right? So all of a sudden, as an adult, I got in more fights at bars as an adult, which I'm not proud of, than I ever did growing up playing football. Like all of a sudden I had like nothing to lose. It was just like I was just lost, and you don't have anybody to really talk to. Sorry, somebody's calling. Can you see me again?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
But
no worries.
so anyway, yeah, it just like I checked in there and they helped me out a lot. And as I talked to the guy, he was just like, you've played for like 23 years total, from 6 years old to when you're adult. And he was like, your dad died at 23. He said, so technically you knew football longer than your own dad. Like you mourn when somebody dies. So that was your life. Every year at the same time, you start spring practice and you start fall, and like it's just this pattern. And when it's removed from you, it's a part of you. And so it took me a long time. And then, even though I'm a smart guy, then you have to sit there and try to figure out um, what are you going to do moving forward, like what job, what type of person am I? And that's kind of what that post was, the Facebook that connected us, is that those guys found something fast and they was passionate. And I love how they just stuck to something. They just became great. They use that same kind of base from sports to be great. And so, to be honest, what I should have done is I'm a blue collar guy. I went and started getting these corporate jobs. I didn't like it, so it took me all these years to figure out I actually love driving trucks. I love warehouse work, but they give you this stigma of like, oh, you're an NFL guy. This is embarrassing. Why are you working here? You know what I'm saying? But then once you get over that, like, wait a minute, that's a whole different chapter of my life. Like those are two
Yeah.
separate. It doesn't make you a failure because you love driving around on a forklift. Like I like it.
Yeah.
Everybody has beards and tattoos like I do, and like people help is more teamwork. Like in sales, a lot of people won't help you because you're chasing the same carrot, right?
Hmm.
And so it gets real cutthroat, and it's just like catty, like just like it's not a lot of people I would hang around with, but in a warehouse, something falls and people are jumping off the fort like, hey, I got you. You know what I'm saying? Or you're driving a truck and you're behind on your schedule. Somebody's already done, so they pull up, you throw some pallets on their truck and they go help, and it's just, it's like more of a team. So I try to share stuff like that to kids, like, hey, go do as many things as you can, while you're playing, like intern somewhere or reach out to people and just try to figure out what you like. So when it's done, you could just jump in it and be successful in that avenue as well. So
Did you have anyone from Florida State or the NFL or the CFL, any kind of program or anything that helped you with that transition?
No, back when we were done, you were just kind of done. You know, the NFL has done
Yeah.
a way better job at helping out. Now, a lot of people don't know I still have the voicemail. Lawrence Dossie, when Jimbo Fisher first got to Florida State, Lawrence Dossie was the receiver coach. They were going to allow me to start coaching. So I was going to be a student assistant coach and then move up and be under that whole coaching staff. And last minute I bailed because I didn't want to leave my kids. So once
Yeah.
again, I picked, my kids over football. But by now, that's the one thing I would have done great. It's been a coach, but besides football, I had to figure out what I could do in regular life, a job. And that's why I figured out just kind of the blue collar stuff is what I enjoy. So Florida State reached out in terms of, do you want to come back and coach? But other than that, there were no programs set up. It's not their fault. It's not the NFL's fault. I think men just weren't open yet to talk about, like, damn, I'm really struggling over here.
Yeah.
I need help. And then as the world has kind of evolved, men are more open to talk about emotions and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. The going to seek counseling, mental health help, I feel like that's huge. And especially today, I think, like you said, people are a lot more open to it. But back in the day, it was probably a little bit, I guess, for lack of a better word, taboo. It's one of the things that I did after playing ball as well, was go see
Right. Yeah.
and get some help as well. And I feel like it really kind of it pushed me to think outside of like what my current point of view was, because I feel like I kept
Yeah.
trying to go back to the well, kept trying to go back to football, and I found myself
Oh, yeah.
coaching football for a career now, because I felt like I had poured my whole life into this thing. So now was the time to utilize it to give back. But at the end of the day, like you said, it takes trying several different things, trying your hand at this, trying your hand at that. And, for you to find that, the blue collar, the truck driving thing was your route. I mean, it makes total sense to me. Like the first thing I think of, cause I got other buddies that played ball, mainly USF guys that are doing a lot of warehouse stuff now. And they're always telling me like the vibe is different than an office gig. Like it's more,
Right.
it's like you could talk to people how you talk like a normal human being.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
Absolutely.
makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense that you would end up going that way.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be your best piece of advice for the class of 2021 athletes that are never going to play football again, never going to play basketball again? What would you tell them?
Yeah. For that, these group of young men or women, whoever who are done, um, first of all, congratulate yourself. Like, it's okay to pat yourself on the back and be like, I accomplished something that others, no matter if you were a walk, or let's say you were a walk on. Okay, well, you were a walk on that withstood all the same stuff. You never got any glory, but you made it, right? Congrats. Say you were a scholarship guy who didn't get to play that much. Cool. You still beat a lot of the odds, right? Or you're somebody who, like me, who was like a star, but then you didn't make it really in the league. Like, so what? Like, the world put so much pressure on you, and they didn't even do it. So that's why I go back to, just like, congratulate yourself, take time to just soak it in, and then also embrace the struggle of learning the new you, right? Like, don't panic. We've all been through it. It'll work itself out, right? But keep waking up and going, just like you would in whatever sport you were in. Just keep going, and then boom, next thing you know, you have it figured out, right? Like, just like I said, just don't feel like you were a failure, because once you do that, that's when you're just sitting around and people become dependent on different substances and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Just like I said, just some days, I'll be honest, I'll put on a highlight tape if I'm feeling down, and my wife already knows. She's like, oh, well, let's sit down and watch this Al Bundy, 30 minutes real quick. And it could be high school, it could be little kids, it could be college, a couple of the CFL. But then it just like picks me up, and it's like, you know what? you're good. Like you did something. It's just like a real quick trip down memory lane, and puts a smile on my face, and then you go knock out, whatever else. But you know what? Like I'm in such a good spot right now in life. I actually feel bad for guys who are getting drafted right now because it's the beginning of the end, right? And I know they're going to struggle, and I wish more people were just there to help. But like you say, just the advice is just enjoy what you did, but don't feel bad when you struggle when it's done, because it'll be all right. It always works out, always.
Absolutely. I got to ask you, since you brought the highlight tape up, when's the last time you watched the catch, man? Be honest.
Oh, you know what? I usually don't until like that
That
week.
week?
Like
Yeah.
I'll be honest. Just because like I don't want to wear it out. Like it's like the
Yeah.
last. I was such a big Florida State fan. I would never have imagined little 8-year-old PK would grow up to make this catch. And that it lasted this long, like it really was like a big moment. And
Historic.
when you're playing, you're just playing. You don't realize, what you did. But as I've gotten older, and my kids can see it, and sometimes they show it on the beginning of the game when both teams are good. It's just cool. It's a blessing. But yeah, I don't really watch that one until that week, just so I get excited. Like, man,
Yeah.
that was pretty sweet. What a blessing. That happened. But
Can you,
no, I only watched that in November.
without going too far
Go
down
ahead.
memory lane, could you, do you remember, I've been dying to
Mhm.
ask you, do you remember what it was like what was the feeling like when you made that catch? Because there's, like you said, not to to your horn too hard, man, but there's not a lot of people that ever make a play like that in a game like
No,
that.
no,
So what,
yeah,
do you remember it at all?
no. Actually, I don't remember. I just remember. To be honest, most guys would be like, "Oh, I thought we weren't gonna lose, right? Like I knew we were gonna win, and I thought we were gonna lose. To be honest, I was like, "There's no way." Um, I'm just being for real. Like I'm like, "There's no
Yeah.
way we're gonna catch this 4th and 14, right?" And then when he caught it, I was just kind of like, "Okay, well, there's still 50 seconds left. Throw a Hail Mary," and then all of a sudden we do, and I'm the guy on the end of it catching it, and I was just like, "What?" You're kind of looking around like, "What just happened?" And it took me like the next day when my mom, she was just like, "PK, that's never gonna leave." Like my mom was an emotional one. My dad was just kind of like, "Well, you're supposed to catch it. You're a receiver. That's your job." And then he was happy, but it was just kind of like move on. Like you still have whatever bowl game left. But my mom was just like, "Sweetie, that's never going anywhere. That's here forever." I'm like, "Okay, mom." And then next thing you know, here we are, 20, basically almost 20 years, 18 years later,
Yeah.
and it's still going. So, but it was a blessing. It was a blessing because it was against Florida also, which as I'm older, I don't hate Florida like I used to, but just knowing the rivalry, you know what I'm saying? Like to do it is different than if I had done it against like Clemson or Georgia Tech or something. You know what I'm saying? It was just everything that was in that package was awesome.
Absolutely. That's epic, man. I encourage any listeners out there that haven't seen it yet, go check that out. Cause that one, being a Florida State fan myself, I was pretty jazzed up watching that catch again,
Yeah.
doing like my little research and before this interview and stuff. Uh, as we kind of wrap this thing up though, I always like to try and end it with one question that's kind of on the deeper side. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if you could go back and talk to 16 or between the ages of 16 and 18-year-old PK and give him advice for like whatever the future held, what would you say to him?
Oh, yeah. So you broke up a little bit, but I think you were saying just what would advice I give to a younger me, like
PK.
high
Yep.
school age. Yeah. Man, I would just tell him number one to keep your mouth shut. Um, that's kind of what ended me in New England with Belichick. The main thing I think I would have enjoyed it more. You know, like I was such a focused, goal setting kid that you forget to enjoy it. And you know, now that I'm almost 40 years old, that question actually kind of makes me emotional because time, you know, you can make all the money in the world, you can't make time, right? And
Hmm.
leaving early was the biggest example of me rushing through life, right? Like go back for one more year, all the friends I made, my brother was there, my mom and dad had rented a house down, you know, like I just skipped over a whole year of life to get to a league that is still there. Like the NFL is not going anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And I was just telling myself to enjoy it, take time to enjoy it, and keep your mouth shut so you can make more money. But yeah, that's it. Nothing too
Yeah.
crazy. I'm proud of what I did, but I definitely should just listen more to Belichick and kept my mouth shut and kept collecting those checks. So
You should be proud, man. You had a hell of a career. You made some historic plays. I mean,
yeah, I appreciate
like
it.
for a guy like me, you kind of described me as without even knowing it as being like one of those guys. Like I got full ride, never got a chance to play in the NFL. Kind of got banged up, didn't really get a chance to pursue it or anything like that. But you lived a dream, man, and now you're
Yeah.
passing that knowledge down to your sons. I'm sure they know
Oh
how
yeah.
lucky they are to have you as a dad, and you know the hard work that you've been putting in and stuff, man. But I really want to tell you, I appreciate you spending some time with me and hopping on the show, man. And
Oh yeah.
I can't wait to get this out to listeners. I feel like it's a very refreshing thing to hear a dude, you know, that played at such a high level say, number one, the mental health thing, number two, um, just being cool, man, and just being like cool with yourself and not being afraid of still doing blue collar work and getting your damn
Oh yeah,
hands
yeah, yeah.
dirty. Like that's a
Yeah, I
beautiful
love it.
thing, man.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, no, I love it. You know, and I wouldn't have this life any other way. So, and I appreciate you for reaching out. Because any little bit, if we just reach one person that helps them out, especially with the mental health, then we did our job. You did your job. That's what you're here for. So anytime, you know, if you just want to have me on just to talk about some crazy Florida State stuff, I would love it. And then, you know, after we jump off here, I'll message you some other guys that you want to maybe want to reach out to or something like that, and try to just keep it
Legit.
rolling. You know, so yeah.
Absolutely,
But no,
man. I really
I
appreciate that.
appreciate you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Have a
All
good
right, I
night.
talk to you. Yes, sir. You too.